Let us break the silence here and now. You think you know history, but what if everything you've been told is wrong? The past isn't what it seems. You're about to discover big historical events that never happened. This video uncovers the shocking lies that have been kept from you for centuries. Let's kick off with the first lie of 31, if you're ready for it. In 1587, 115 settlers arrived on Roanoke Island to start a new life, only to vanish without a trace. 3 years later, their leader, John White, returns to find no bodies, no clues, just the word Croatoan carved into a post. What happened to them? For centuries, the mystery has gripped the world with chilling theories. But what if everything you've been told is wrong? What if the lost colony wasn't lost at all? What if the settlers weren't gone, but something far darker happened instead? Could the carvings be a signal? Did they disappear? Or was there something more sinister at play? The lost colony of Roanoke might not be the puzzle we thought. It might be a lie. And this was just the beginning of way more lies. We bet you think you know the truth. But is this really the truth? Amelia Earhart, the pioneering aviator, famously disappeared in 1937 while attempting to fly around the world. The mystery surrounding her disappearance has led to numerous theories, from a crash in the Pacific Ocean to her being captured by the Japanese. But what if the truth is less dramatic than the myth? Some believe Earhart's plane simply ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean, with no one ever finding the wreckage. The many conspiracy theories may have emerged as people sought to explain her disappearance in more sensational terms. The truth is, Amelia Earhart's death may be far simpler than the elaborate myths that have surrounded it for decades. Her final flight remains a mystery, but the reality might be less mysterious than we've been led to believe. Curious what your truth is about the next shiny case? Let's check out if you are ready for the next myth that will make you grinding teeth. The image of George Washington with wooden teeth has become a popular part of American folklore. The myth suggests that Washington's dentures were made of wood, adding to the image of the first president enduring personal hardship while leading the country. However, this story is not true. Washington's dentures were not made of wood, but rather a mix of materials such as ivory, gold, and even human teeth. Some of his dentures were crafted from the teeth of enslaved individuals, which has been a topic of much historical discussion. While Washington did struggle with dental problems throughout his life, the wooden teeth myth likely arose because the ivory used in his dentures had a yellowish tint, leading people to mistakenly believe they were made of wood. The truth is, George Washington's dentures were far more complex and crafted from more common materials than the myth of wooden teeth suggests. Now it's time to test your focus. What materials were actually used in George Washington's dentures? A. Wood and bone. B. Ivory, gold, and human teeth. C. Porcelain. Think you know the answer? Without rewatching the video, drop your guess in the comments below. We are just at the beginning of the list of the biggest lies of history. Let's change your perspective by spilling another truth about a myth you might not expect. The story of George Washington chopping down a cherry tree as a child and famously admitting, "I cannot tell a lie," is one of the most enduring myths in American history. It's often used to symbolize Washington's honesty and integrity, but the truth is, this story is likely a fabrication. The tale first appeared in a biography written by Parson Weems in the early 1800s, years after Washington's death. Weems created the story to build a moral image of Washington, not as a factual account. There's no historical evidence that Washington ever chopped down a cherry tree or made the famous confession. This myth has shaped Washington's legacy, but it also shows how stories can be crafted to enhance the public image of historical figures. The truth behind the cherry tree story reveals how easily myths can become part of the national consciousness. I think you are totally in for a party. Let's hit it and expose the next lie. The Boston Tea Party is often seen as a spontaneous outburst of anger against British taxes. However, it was actually a carefully planned protest organized by the Sons of Liberty, led by Samuel Adams. The event, in which colonists dumped tea into Boston Harbor, was part of a deliberate strategy to oppose British policies and taxes. While the act was dramatic, it was far from impulsive. The myth of it being a spontaneous protest likely grew as the event gained legendary status, but in reality, it was a calculated political statement aimed at challenging British authority. And now it is ready for a confusing mind game. Can you dissolve this next paradox? Zeno's motion paradox challenges everything we know about movement. Imagine trying to walk from one point to another, but before you can get there, you must first reach halfway, then halfway to that point, and so on, forever. According to Zeno, this endless division of space means you can never truly reach your destination. But here's the twist. What if Zeno's paradox isn't about movement at all, but our understanding of infinity? Could this age-old puzzle actually reveal something deeper about time, space, and how we experience reality? The truth behind Zeno's paradox might change the way we think about the world itself. The Gordian knot is one of the most famous puzzles in history, a complex and seemingly impossible knot tied by King Gordius of Phrygia. According to an ancient prophecy, whoever could unravel it would rule Asia. For years, many tried and failed to untie the knot, as its intricate loops seemed impossible to solve. Then along came Alexander the Great, who, instead of spending time unraveling it, simply sliced the knot in half with his sword. This bold move became famous as a solution. But was it really the answer to the puzzle, or just a display of Alexander's power and decisiveness? Could it be that the real message of the Gordian knot is about challenging traditional thinking and showing leadership through unconventional actions? The story behind this ancient riddle might not be as simple as it seems, and what we've been told might not capture the true meaning of Alexander's bold act. If you think these were lies, wait for the next ones to come. Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds in history, is often thought to have failed math in school. This myth has been widely believed, suggesting that even geniuses struggle with basic concepts. However, the truth is quite different. Einstein was exceptional at math, even mastering advanced calculus as a teenager. The myth likely started from a misunderstanding of his academic records and a confusion with other subjects he struggled with, like languages. Einstein did face challenges in school, but his struggles were not with math. Instead, they were with subjects that required rote memorization. The failed math story became a way to show that even great minds can have setbacks. But in reality, his success was due to years of hard work and intellectual curiosity. So the next time you hear that Einstein failed math, remember, it's just another misconception about his journey to greatness. The phrase, "let them eat cake," is often attributed to Marie Antoinette, supposedly said by the Queen of France when told the poor had no bread. It paints her as out of touch and indifferent to the suffering of the people. But the truth is, there's no evidence she ever said this. The phrase likely originated from anti-monarchy writers who wanted to tarnish her reputation. Marie Antoinette was actually known for her charitable efforts and concern for the poor, but as the French Revolution gained momentum, her image was deliberately manipulated. The "let them eat cake" myth became a powerful symbol of royal indifference, even though it was never her words. This false quote has lasted for centuries, shaping how we view her legacy. It's a prime example of how history can be rewritten and how one false statement can change public perception forever. Hey, you hunter. Ready to hunt on some lies about witches? The witch hunts of medieval Europe are often seen as a dark period in history, where thousands of women were tortured and executed for supposedly practicing witchcraft. The image of a widespread, violent witch hunt is ingrained in our minds. But what if the reality isn't as vast as we've been led to believe? While witch trials certainly took place, the most infamous witch hunts actually occurred during the 16th and 17th centuries, not the medieval era. In fact, many parts of Europe saw far fewer witch trials than we commonly think. The idea of widespread witch hunts was amplified by later historical accounts and sensationalized stories. The truth is that most trials were localized events, often influenced by fear, superstition, and political power struggles. The witch hunts myth paints a picture of medieval Europe in constant chaos, but the truth reveals a much more complex and varied history. Understanding the real history behind these hunts shows how fear can shape narratives and how easily myths can spread across generations. The idea that the Vikings were the first Europeans to discover America is widely accepted, thanks to stories of Leif Erikson reaching North America around 1000 AD. But what if this myth is oversimplified? While it's true that the Vikings established settlements in present-day Canada, they didn't discover America. Native American tribes had been living on the continent for thousands of years, and even the Norse settlements were short-lived and abandoned. The story of the Vikings often overshadows the deeper history of exploration and settlement by indigenous peoples. The Vikings discovered America first myth highlights the Vikings' adventurous spirit, but it misses the broader, more complex history of human migration. The truth is far more intricate, showing that while the Vikings made an impact, they were far from the first to reach the Americas. From witches to Vikings ready to get fruity? The myth that Isaac Newton discovered gravity by watching an apple fall. The story of Sir Isaac Newton discovering gravity after an apple fell from a tree is one of the most famous tales in science. It paints a picture of a moment of sudden inspiration where Newton's curiosity was sparked by a simple fruit dropping to the ground. However, this story is likely more myth than fact. While Newton's work on gravity was groundbreaking, there's no evidence to suggest that an apple directly led to his discovery. Newton's theories of gravity were the result of years of careful observation, mathematical calculations, and experimentation, not a single moment of revelation under an apple tree. The apple story likely emerged as a way to simplify and romanticize his discovery. The truth is that gravity was a concept that evolved over time through careful scientific inquiry, not a sudden flash of insight inspired by a falling fruit. It's often said that Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey to be the U.S. national bird, but this is a myth. While Franklin did express a preference for the turkey over the bald eagle in a letter to his daughter, he never officially proposed it. He admired the turkey's courage, but was mostly speaking in jest. The bald eagle was chosen for its strength and symbolism of freedom, not because of Franklin's comments. The turkey myth has endured, but the bald eagle has always been the true symbol of America. The Wright brothers are famously credited with inventing flight, but this myth oversimplifies the story. While they were the first to successfully fly a powered, controlled aircraft in 1903, they were not the only pioneers of aviation. Many inventors before them, like Samuel Langley and Gustav Whitehead, made significant contributions to flight technology. The Wright brothers' success came from refining earlier ideas and improving on existing designs, not from inventing flight from scratch. The myth of the Wright brothers as the sole inventors of flight has been shaped by history and popular culture. But the truth is that flight was the result of years of experimentation and collaboration. The infamous tale of Emperor Nero playing his lyre while Rome burned has been passed down for centuries, painting him as a heartless ruler who watched his city perish without a care. But this widely accepted story may not be what it seems. While it's true that a massive fire ravaged Rome in 64 AD, there's no historical evidence that Nero played music during the disaster. In fact, contemporary accounts suggest that Nero was actually in Antium, miles away from the city, when the fire began. Upon hearing of the destruction, he rushed back to Rome and organized relief efforts, opening his palace to provide shelter for the homeless. The myth of Nero fiddling while Rome burned may have been the product of political rivals seeking to tarnish his reputation. In reality, Nero's actions during the fire have been misrepresented, and the image of him playing music while his city suffered is far more legend than fact. The truth is that Nero's response to the fire was far more complex, and the myth of him playing the lyre may be nothing more than a fabrication. And with this being said, there are still 14 big lies to expose that will blow your mind and change your perspective on history completely. Let's check out the next one right now. The legend of the Fountain of Youth has fascinated people for centuries, promising eternal youth to anyone who finds its magical waters. Often linked to explorer Juan Ponce de Leon, it's said he journeyed to Florida in search of the fountain. But what if this story isn't true? There's no evidence Ponce de Leon was actually searching for such a fountain. His mission in Florida was likely focused on wealth and land, not immortality. The idea of him seeking the Fountain of Youth was probably added later by writers to embellish his story. The truth is, the Fountain of Youth is just a myth, born from a desire to conquer aging, not a real pursuit of a magical spring. The legendary King Arthur, with his sword Excalibur and the Knights of the Round Table, has been a symbol of chivalry and heroism for centuries. But what if the story of King Arthur is more myth than reality? There is no concrete evidence that Arthur was a real historical figure. The tales of his bravery and kingdom likely evolved from a blend of folklore, Celtic legends, and later medieval romanticism. While there may have been leaders or warriors with similar qualities, Arthur's story seems to have been shaped and exaggerated over time. The truth is that King Arthur may never have existed at all, and the myth surrounding him has endured as a timeless symbol of ideals that never fully belonged to one man. The story of the mysterious man in the Iron Mask has captivated imaginations for centuries. According to legend, a prisoner was kept in a secret iron mask, his identity concealed, and his fate tied to a royal conspiracy. The mystery surrounding his imprisonment has sparked numerous theories. But what if this tale is more fiction than fact? The true identity of the man remains unknown, and many historians believe the story has been heavily exaggerated. The mask may not have been made of iron, and the reasons for his imprisonment were likely more mundane than the dramatic theories suggest. The myth of the man in the iron mask endures, but the reality is far less thrilling. His story may have been twisted over time, creating a legend that's more mysterious than the truth itself. The Holy Grail, said to be the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper, has been a symbol of divine power and eternal life for centuries. Legends tell of knights embarking on perilous quests to find the Grail. But what if this holy relic is nothing more than myth? There's no historical evidence that the Grail ever existed. The story likely emerged from medieval tales and religious symbolism, evolving over time into a sacred quest. The idea of a magical, life-giving object was likely a reflection of the era's search for deeper meaning and spiritual fulfillment. The truth is, the Holy Grail may never have been a physical object at all, but a powerful legend shaped by centuries of myth-making. For centuries, the lost tomb of Cleopatra has been the subject of intrigue and speculation. The ancient queen, known for her beauty, intelligence, and tragic end, was said to have been buried with her lover, Julius Caesar or Mark Antony, in a grand tomb. But what if the tomb never existed as imagined? Despite numerous searches, no definitive discovery has been made. It's possible that Cleopatra's tomb was never lost at all, or it might have been destroyed or plundered long ago. The myth of a grand hidden tomb may have grown over time, fueled by fascination with her life and death. The truth is, the lost tomb of Cleopatra may simply be a myth, with the mystery surrounding it more about legend than historical reality. Ready for another myth that will make you want to look twice? The story of the Trojan horse, where the Greeks used a massive wooden horse to sneak into the city of Troy and win the war, is one of the most famous myths in history. But what if this tale is just a legend? There's no solid evidence that a giant wooden horse was used in the fall of Troy. The story likely emerged from a blend of Greek storytelling and later interpretations of historical events. The fall of Troy may have involved more conventional tactics, such as trickery or siege warfare, rather than the dramatic horse. The truth is, the Trojan horse may never have existed at all. It's a powerful symbol, but the myth is likely a creative embellishment rather than a historical fact. The Shroud of Turin, a centuries-old cloth said to bear the image of Jesus Christ, has intrigued both believers and skeptics. Tradition holds that it was used to wrap Christ's body after his crucifixion, with the image on the cloth thought to be a miraculous imprint of his face and body. But what if the truth is far more complicated? Despite its fame, there's no definitive proof that the shroud is Jesus' burial cloth. Carbon dating from the late 20th century suggests it dates to the 14th century, long after Christ's time. Some believe the image could be a product of medieval artistic techniques or a natural chemical process, not a divine miracle. The origins of the image remain a mystery. Some argue it's a supernatural phenomenon, while others believe it was created by early photographic methods or artistic skill. While the shroud holds significant religious meaning, the evidence suggests it's more likely a medieval artifact than the holy relic it's claimed to be. In the end, the mystery of the Shroud of Turin may not be about ancient history, but rather the power of belief and the enduring pull of legend. The Bermuda Triangle, a region in the Atlantic Ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, is infamous for the mysterious disappearances of ships and airplanes. Over the years, countless theories have emerged to explain these strange vanishings, from alien abductions to underwater city ruins. But what if the truth is far simpler than the myths? While many disappearances have occurred in the Bermuda Triangle, the overall number of incidents isn't higher than in any other heavily traveled area of the world. In fact, many of these disappearances have been shown to have logical explanations, such as navigational errors, sudden weather changes, or mechanical failures. The Bermuda Triangle's reputation as a zone of mystery has largely been fueled by sensational stories and media exaggerations. The idea that something supernatural or extraterrestrial is at play has captured the imagination, but the reality is that the area's dangers are no different from those of other parts of the ocean. The truth behind the Bermuda Triangle mystery may simply be a combination of human error, natural forces, and the power of legend, rather than a site of unexplained phenomena. The idea that the Great Wall of China is visible from space has been widely circulated, often cited as proof of the wall's immense size and scale. The myth suggests that this ancient structure is so large and remarkable that astronauts can see it with the naked eye from orbit. But the truth is, the Great Wall is not visible from space without aid. While the wall is long, it is narrow and made from materials that blend in with the surrounding terrain, making it nearly impossible to spot from space. Astronauts have confirmed that the wall cannot be seen with the naked eye from low Earth orbit. The myth likely emerged as a way to emphasize the wall's monumental size and importance. But in reality, it's just one of many stories that have been exaggerated over time. The truth is that while the Great Wall is an incredible feat of engineering, its visibility from space is nothing more than a myth. Many people believe that in the past, everyone thought the Earth was flat, and it was only later that explorers like Christopher Columbus proved it was round. But this is a historical misunderstanding. By the time Columbus set sail in 1492, educated people already knew the Earth was round. The idea that people in the Middle Ages thought the Earth was flat is a myth created in the 19th century, largely to make history seem more dramatic. Ancient Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and Aristotle had already provided evidence of a spherical Earth, and this knowledge was widely accepted among scholars. The flat Earth myth was invented to exaggerate the achievements of explorers and to simplify the story of scientific progress. The truth is, humanity had known the Earth was round for centuries before Columbus set sail. Ever was wondering how it was to experience a total disaster and try to escape from it? We spill the truth about the biggest disaster on sea out of history here and now. The sinking of the RMS Titanic has been one of history's most tragic and well-known events, with many stories focusing on the ship's slow and dramatic demise. A common belief is that the Titanic was sinking for hours, giving passengers plenty of time to escape or attempt heroic actions. But the truth is far different. The Titanic sank in just under 3 hours, from the time it struck the iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on April 14, 1912, to its final plunge at 2:20 a.m. While this might seem like a long time, it was actually a relatively short period for such a massive disaster. Many of the ship's lifeboats were launched only after critical time had been lost in trying to organize evacuations. The myth of a slow, prolonged sinking likely developed over time due to the dramatic nature of the event and the many personal accounts from survivors. In reality, the Titanic's fate was sealed much faster than most people realize. You are almost at the point where you uncovered every shocking lie that have been kept from you for centuries, ready for the last few ones that you cannot miss? A common myth claims that Marco Polo introduced pasta to Italy after his travels to China in the 13th century. The story suggests that Polo discovered noodles in China and brought them back to Italy, where they eventually became a staple of Italian cuisine. However, this is not true. Pasta had already existed in Italy long before Marco Polo's time. Evidence shows that pasta was being consumed in Italy as early as the 12th century, well before Polo's journey. The myth likely arose because Polo mentioned noodles in his writings, leading to the mistaken belief that he introduced pasta to Italy. In reality, pasta's origins in Italy are much older than Polo's travels, and the legend of him bringing pasta to Italy is simply a historical misconception. The famous line, "Et tu, Brute," is often attributed to Julius Caesar as he was stabbed by his close friend Brutus during his assassination in 44 BCE. This dramatic moment, as depicted in Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar, has become iconic, symbolizing betrayal. However, there is no historical evidence that Caesar actually said these words. Ancient sources, such as Suetonius and Plutarch, do not record his final words, and "Et tu, Brute" was likely invented by Shakespeare to heighten the emotional impact of the scene. The myth of Caesar's last words has persisted, but in reality, his final moments remain a mystery, and the line is a fictional addition to the historical account. The term Dark Ages has long been used to describe the period following the fall of the Roman Empire, implying a time of cultural stagnation and ignorance. Many believe this era was marked by a complete lack of progress, with little intellectual or cultural achievement. However, this is a myth. While the collapse of Rome did disrupt certain aspects of life, the so-called Dark Ages saw important developments in agriculture, architecture, and science. The period also witnessed the preservation and translation of classical texts by scholars in monasteries, as well as the rise of universities and advances in technology. The idea of the Dark Ages as a time of total decline has been oversimplified. In truth, it was a period of transition where progress and innovation continued, even amid challenges. The last lie, the shortest lie, but the one with the biggest impact. Ready, set, go. Napoleon Bonaparte is famously thought to have been short, but in reality, he was about 5'6", average for his time. So how did this myth get started? It was a clever smear campaign by his enemies to make him seem less powerful. Understanding the truth behind Napoleon's height shows just how easily history can be distorted to shape perception. The Hope Diamond, a stunning 45.22-carat blue gem, has long been associated with a curse said to bring misfortune or even death to its owners. Over the years, stories have circulated about people who met tragic ends after acquiring the diamond, including infamous figures like Marie Antoinette and King Louis XVI. But what if the curse is just a myth? While the Hope Diamond's history is filled with intrigue and mystery, there's no concrete evidence linking it to any actual curse. Many of the so-called misfortunes that befell its owners can be attributed to coincidence, misfortune, or natural causes. The tale of the cursed diamond likely grew over time, fueled by sensational stories and a fascination with the gem's exotic origins and size. In reality, the Hope Diamond is simply a remarkable gemstone with a rich history, and the curse is more folklore than fact.